She was just serving food in the mess hall until the general saw her tattoo and froze in terror. Welcome back to my channel, Silent Heroes. This channel never lets heroes be forgotten. Not the loud ones, not the decorated ones, and especially not the silent ones. Here, we tell the stories history tried to bury, the names erased from reports, the faces you walked past without ever knowing who they really were. If you believe courage doesn't always wear medals, you're in the right place. Take a breath, because this story doesn't knock, it kicks the door in. Every morning at exactly 6 a.m., the steel kitchen doors at Joint Base Falcon swing open with the same tired groan. The sound is swallowed by heat, steam, and the low thunder of 800 hungry personnel waiting to be fed. The air smells like burnt coffee, powdered eggs, and urgency. By 6:03, the mess hall is already alive. Boots scraping tile, trays clattering, voices overlapping like static. War may be fought overseas, but mornings here are their own kind of battle. At the far end of the serving line stands Staff Sergeant Maria Santos, 34 years old, 18 months stationed at Falcon. She doesn't greet anyone, she doesn't joke, she doesn't complain. She serves food with quiet efficiency, eyes lowered, movements precise. If you blink, you miss her. If you don't, you forget her anyway. Around here, they don't call her by name. They call her Ghost because she's so quiet, so invisible, that your brain erases her the moment you walk away. Soldiers talk over her, around her, through her. Eggs dry today. Coffee tastes like jet fuel. Hey, Ghost, extra bacon? She never reacts, never smiles, never frowns. She just nods once and keeps moving. To them, she's furniture, a background prop, another faceless cog in a massive machine that never stops turning. And Maria Santos seems perfectly content to be overlooked. But invisibility is a skill, and like all skills, it can be learned, practiced, perfected. The mess hall is a furnace this Tuesday morning. The air conditioning died sometime after midnight and no one's fixed it yet. Sweat darkens uniforms, tempers are short. The line snakes out the door. Stainless steel counters radiate heat like sun-baked asphalt. Maria wipes her hands on a towel and keeps serving, her breathing steady, her pulse invisible. She has been here before. Heat doesn't bother her. Noise doesn't bother her. Chaos doesn't either. At 7:30 a.m. exactly, the room shifts. No announcement, no warning, just a subtle ripple that moves faster than sound. Conversations drop half a decibel, spines straighten. Someone whispers, "General." 4-star General Patricia Hawthorne steps inside the mess hall flanked by 2 aides and a base commander who looks like he hasn't slept in days. Surprise inspection, the kind that ruins careers and exposes cracks people hoped would stay hidden. General Hawthorne doesn't smile. She doesn't need to. Her presence alone is a weapon. She scans the room like a radar sweep, faces, posture, discipline. Her eyes miss nothing. She accepts a coffee mug from an aide and walks slowly along the serving line, observing, evaluating, judging. This is her base today, and everyone feels it. Maria Santos does not look up. She keeps serving. Scoop, slide, step back, repeat. Her rhythm never breaks. To anyone watching, she is exactly what she appears to be, a quiet kitchen worker doing her job under pressure. But pressure reveals things, and fate has a cruel sense of timing. As Maria reaches across the counter for a heavy pot of scrambled eggs, the fabric of her sleeve rides up, just an inch, maybe 2. Enough. Enough for the general to see it. A small black eagle inked sharply against Maria's wrist. Beneath it, a line of Arabic script, faded but unmistakable. The general's breath catches. Her fingers loosen. The ceramic coffee mug slips from her hand and shatters on the tile floor, the sound exploding through the mess hall like a gunshot. Crash. Every head turns. Time stutters. Conversations die mid-word. The room goes silent except for the hiss of steam and the echo of porcelain breaking. General Hawthorne stares at Maria's wrist as if she's just seen a ghost. No, something worse, something that should not exist, something that was supposed to be gone forever. Maria freezes, just for half a second. Then she gently sets the pot down and pulls her sleeve back into place. No one understands what just happened. Soldiers exchange confused looks. An aide rushes to apologize. The base commander goes pale. Someone laughs nervously, thinking it's a joke, but the general doesn't move. Her eyes are locked on Maria Santos with a kind of fear that cannot be faked. Not surprise, not anger, recognition. And recognition is dangerous. "Are you all right, ma'am?" the commander asks. The general doesn't answer. Her mind is somewhere else, somewhere classified, buried under red stamps and black ink. A symbol, a mission, a file she personally approved, a team that never came home. Her hand trembles once before she curls it into a fist. Maria keeps her eyes down. She does not apologize. She does not explain. She waits. The inspection ends early, abruptly. The general leaves without another word, her aides scrambling to keep up. The mess hall slowly exhales. Noise creeps back in, hesitant at first, then louder. Plates clatter, conversations resume. Someone jokes about generals being human too. Laughter breaks the tension. No one notices Maria's hands shaking as she washes dishes. By noon, rumors spread like wildfire. The general dropped her mug. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Something spooked her. No one connects it to the quiet woman behind the counter. Why would they? Ghosts don't scare generals. Ghosts aren't supposed to exist at all. But somewhere deep beneath the Pentagon, a secure terminal lights up. A file is pulled, then another. Names scroll past, photos, redacted paragraphs, a status stamped in cold, final letters. KIA, confirmed. One name sits at the center of it all, impossible and undeniable. Maria Santos, declared dead in Syria 2 years ago, and now, somehow, she is standing in a mess hall serving eggs right under their noses. That night, as the base settles into uneasy sleep, Maria finishes her shift at 7 p.m. sharp. She hangs her apron, washes her hands, and walks out into the dark like she does every night. No one follows her. No one questions her. Cameras track her movements, but nothing looks out of place. She disappears into the shadows between buildings, just another forgotten figure at the edge of the frame. In her quarters, alone, Maria sits on the edge of her bed and finally exhales. 18 months of silence, 18 months of patience, 18 months of pretending to be no one. She stares at her wrist, at the tattoo she never meant to show. A symbol burned into history, a mark of a unit that officially never existed, a reminder of a promise that was never fulfilled. Outside, somewhere in the chain of command, alarms are quietly being raised, because that symbol was never meant to be seen again. The meeting room beneath the east wing of Joint Base Falcon had no windows, no clocks, and no tolerance for doubt. Steel walls, fluorescent lights, a long black table scarred by years of classified arguments. When the door sealed shut, it did so with a sound that felt permanent. General Patricia Hawthorne stood at the head of the table, her face rigid, her eyes burning with something dangerously close to regret. Around her sat military intelligence officers who understood one thing very clearly. This meeting was not supposed to exist. Colonel David Morrison broke the silence by sliding a single folder across the table. Red cover, black stamp, top secret, eyes only. The kind of file that ruined sleep and shortened careers. According to Pentagon records, he said, slowly, carefully, Operation Desert Falcon ended 2 years ago in northern Syria. 12-person Special Operations Unit, Delta Force, ambushed during a weapons smuggling interdiction. No survivors. He paused, let the words settle. Entire team declared KIA, bodies unrecovered, case closed. General Hawthorne didn't sit. She stared at the eagle insignia projected onto the wall, the same eagle she had seen that morning on a wrist that should not exist. Then explain, she said. her voice sharp enough to cut steel. "Why one of those dead soldiers has been serving scrambled eggs on my base for 18 months?" No one answered, because no one had a safe answer. Silence thickened, files opened, screens lit up, and buried history began clawing its way back to the surface. Operation Desert Falcon had been scrubbed clean, redactions stacked on redactions, names removed, locations blurred. The official narrative was simple, efficient, comforting. Mission compromised, enemy contact, team lost, end of story. But Morrison kept scrolling. Financial transfers, contractor agreements, supply routes that made no tactical sense. This operation wasn't just about weapons, he said. It intersected with Pentagon-linked contractors, private logistics firms, people who had money, influence, and something to lose. Hawthorne's jaw tightened. She remembered approving that mission. She remembered trusting the paperwork. Back in the mess hall, life went on as if none of this was happening. Maria Santos arrived at 6 a.m. sharp, every day, same routine, same silence, same invisible presence. She moved like a metronome, steady, predictable, unremarkable, to the untrained eye. But patterns mean something when you know how to read them. Her knife work was too clean, too fast, no wasted motion. She never turned her back on an open space, ever. Her eyes flicked to exits without conscious thought. And that scar on her neck? Not an accident. A blade, maybe? Close. Intentional. She never removed her watch, not while washing dishes, not while scrubbing floors. A digital face, scratched and dull, always worn tight against her wrist. Kitchen staff joked about it once. "Afraid someone's gonna steal it, Ghost?" She hadn't answered, because that watch wasn't jewelry. It was muscle memory, timing, synchronization, survival. The kind you don't unlearn, the kind that doesn't belong in a kitchen. Colonel Morrison chose the moment carefully. Evening cleanup, fewer people, less noise. Steam rising from sinks like fog on a battlefield. Maria was alone at the prep table, breaking down equipment with mechanical precision. He stood behind her for a full 5 seconds before speaking. "Master Sergeant Maria Elena Santos," he said, quietly, deliberately, each word placed like a trigger pull. "We need to talk." For the first time in 18 months, Maria Santos looked up. The change was immediate, terrifyingly subtle. Her shoulders squared, her spine straightened. The tired slump of a kitchen worker vanished, replaced by something coiled and alert. Her eyes locked onto Morrison's, not defensive, not surprised, but assessing, calculating. The ghost was gone. In her place stood a soldier. "You're late," she said, evenly, no accent, no hesitation. Morrison felt the air shift. He knew then, whatever game this was, she had been several moves ahead the entire time. They sat in a storage room that smelled of bleach and metal. Morrison laid out the truth as the Pentagon understood it. Syria, ambush, no survivors. Maria listened without interruption, her face unreadable. When she finished, she leaned back slightly, hands folded. "Your version," she said, "is missing a few things." And then she told him what really happened. The convoy rerouted at the last minute, coordinates altered without authorization, friendly intel that wasn't friendly at all. Someone wanted them exposed, someone wanted them erased. The ambush was precise, professional, not insurgents, contractors, private assets with military-grade training. Maria had been separated during the first explosion, thrown into rubble, her comms destroyed. She evaded capture for 3 days, moving at night, bleeding, dehydrated, hunted. She found a radio on the 4th day, could have called for extraction, could have screamed the truth into the void. She didn't, because the network was still active, and if she talked, they'd know she was alive. I needed them to think the story worked. Silence wasn't survival, it was strategy. General Hawthorne demanded to see Maria that same night. No rank, no ceremony, just 2 women sitting across from each other in a secured office, history breathing between them. Why here? Why a mess hall? Hawthorne asked. Maria met her gaze without flinching. Because Joint Base Falcon processes supply contracts for the entire region, food, fuel, equipment. Money moves through this base quietly. I needed access, and I needed time. 18 months of watching, logging, connecting dots no one else was looking for. She showed them the quarters no one knew existed, a forgotten maintenance room sealed behind a false wall. Inside, organized chaos. Photos, maps, names, bank transfers, contractor logos circled in red, communication logs printed and pinned. The same network that killed her team, the same hands laundering weapons through legitimate channels. They trusted the system to protect them, Maria said, so I stayed inside the system, let them get comfortable. Morrison felt something cold settle in his chest. This wasn't hiding, this was hunting. Every detail of her routine had been deliberate. The silence, the invisibility, the patience. People talked around her, near her. They forgot her, and in that forgetfulness, they revealed everything. She had watched officers sign papers they didn't read, contractors laugh too loudly, shipments rerouted with casual authority. They never see the quiet ones, she said. That's the mistake. Hawthorne closed her eyes briefly, the weight of it all pressed down hard. The truth was no longer buried, it was screaming. Operation Desert Falcon hadn't failed, it had been sacrificed. Maria Santos hadn't been left behind, she had stayed. Chosen obscurity over exposure, silence over safety. The system didn't forget her, it assumed she was gone, and she let it. Because dead soldiers don't raise alarms, dead soldiers don't ask questions, dead soldiers don't hunt traitors from inside their own house. The false maintenance wall at Joint Base Falcon swung open with the faintest whisper, revealing the room Maria had built from shadows and patience. Inside, it was nothing short of a command center for truth. Maps crisscrossed with a red string, photographs of meetings, financial transfers, scanned communications, all pinned meticulously to walls that had never been noticed before. Each thread connected contractors, shipments, and supply routes like veins in a living network. She ran her fingers along the lines, tracing betrayals that had spanned continents, all while the base around her continued its ordinary rhythm, completely unaware. Maria Elena Santos stood alone, but she was everywhere at once. Every careful observation, every unnoticed glance, every shadowy movement she had made over 18 months was now consolidated into evidence that could topple empires. The system that had failed her team, that had labeled them as lost, had no idea she was inside it, quiet, patient, invisible, but fully aware of every flaw, every vulnerability. She had become the network's ghost, turning invisibility into weaponized knowledge. General Patricia Hawthorne entered the room, her boots silent against the concrete floor. The authority in her presence did nothing to intimidate Maria. Hawthorne's eyes fell on the wall, the evidence, the meticulous mapping of illegal networks, the photos of known contractors, the document trails, the financial ledgers. Her hand trembled slightly, but she tried to keep composure. "Your cover is blown. You have 48 hours, Hawthorne said, her tone clipped, professional, but every word weighed with the gravity of moral conflict. Maria's response was simple, a calm, almost playful smile, the first in 18 months. It was a smile that carried the power of patience, calculation, and inevitable consequence. Coordination followed immediately. Intelligence officers were quietly mobilized, following the threads Maria had laid out with surgical precision. Surveillance feeds linked with local authorities. Arrest warrants were issued for high-level figures implicated in weapon smuggling, money laundering, and betrayal. Names were not broadcast, but every file held the weight of truth. Every operation moved with meticulous timing. The people who had betrayed a Delta Force unit, who had attempted to manipulate the system for profit, were about to face consequences that would echo far beyond Falcon Base. Meanwhile, back in the mess hall, soldiers continued their morning routine, unaware of the storm Maria had set in motion. Plates clattered, coffee steamed, conversations drifted casually, yet everything had changed. The woman they had called Ghost, the invisible kitchen worker, was no longer just a shadow. Announcements were made. The mess hall that had once been mundane now became a stage for recognition and tribute. Fallen team members were honored posthumously, medals were awarded, voices cracked, eyes glistened with unspoken grief. Soldiers who had dismissed Maria as background finally realized the weight she had carried for them, for the mission, for justice. Maria Elena Santos did not seek the spotlight. She did not demand accolades. She stood at the edge of the ceremony, composed, eyes scanning the room. Every smile, every whispered thank you, every glance of newfound respect mattered more than any medal. Her duty had never been about recognition, it had been about truth, about ensuring that betrayal did not go unpunished, about proving that even the quietest, most overlooked individuals can wield power through patience, intelligence, and moral courage. And then, for the first time in the channel's narrative, Maria addressed the audience directly. Her voice was steady, warm, commanding. If this story of courage, patience, and justice resonates with you, please hit subscribe, leave a like, and comment below. Your comment is my fuel. Tell me where in the world you're watching from, because your perspective drives the path we continue together. The audience now understood the philosophy of silent heroes, not the ones who seek glory, but the ones whose vigilance and sacrifice ripple outward quietly, leaving indelible marks on the world. Outside the base, operations continued, arrests were executed, and the web of betrayal unraveled. The weapon networks that had hidden behind contractor logos and Pentagon seals were dismantled. But the most profound revelation was not the capture of criminals, it was the enduring lesson. The real danger was never the enemy abroad. The real danger was inside. The betrayal at home had been nearly invisible, nearly total, and the one person who had seen it all, who had lived through it all, and who had patiently prepared for this moment, Maria, was finally stepping into the light, not for glory, but for justice, for memory, and for the truth that refuses to be silenced. From the quiet corners of Falcon Base to the eyes of the audience across the world, the story carried its message. Silence is not weakness, patience is not passivity, and heroes, silent, invisible, patient, can change the course of history without ever asking for acknowledgement. Maria Elena Santos, once the ghost of Falcon, now stood as the embodiment of that truth. And through her story, viewers were invited to witness, to reflect, and to honor those who carry burdens unseen. The network had been exposed, the betrayals punished, the fallen remembered, and the silent hero had reclaimed her place, not in headlines, but in history, and in the hearts of those who recognize courage in its quietest, most potent form. Now, if you felt the weight of this story, if you understand the sacrifices made beyond the spotlight, please subscribe, leave a like, and comment below. Your comment is my fuel. Tell me your city, your country, where you're watching from, because your voice drives our journey forward. Every piece of evidence, every calculated step, every moment of invisibility had led to this, and Maria Elena Santos had proven once and for all that the real war sometimes fought quietly inside the system, and victories are claimed not for glory, but for justice. The ghost had returned, not to haunt, but to finish what was begun, to honor her team, and to show that the quietest hero can leave the loudest impact.